With the announcement of Pokemon Legends ZA and the hopeful return of Mega Evolutions, I wanted to make a video on what I thought some of the coolest Mega Evolutions were. Mega Evolutions was by far my favorite Pokemon gimmick, and I'm super excited about the potential comeback with the newest game release. Everyone knows that Lucario, Salamence, and many others are the most popular and strongest Megas out there, but today we're not going to talk about any of those. I like them a lot, but I wanted to shine some light on the Megas that I think are the coolest in the series and talk about why I like them so much. Ampharos was one of my favorite Pokemon from the Johto region. It was always my go-to electric-type Pokemon in Generation 2. Its strange final evolution form coming from a sheep was always funny to me, but I really enjoyed its design a lot. Being the first type change on this list, Ampharos' Mega goes from Electric to Electric and Dragon. It grows a huge white mane and sports a big poofy tail, reminding me a lot of Altaria. With a minor decrease in speed when it Mega evolves, Ampharos gains fairly decent defenses both physical and special, while also having a huge increase to special attack, which is what its base form of offense used. Although it learns Dragon Pulse as its only useful dragon move, Ampharos has a wide move pool to make up for it. It makes using it enjoyable instead of really just being used for Thunderbolt, for example. Unfortunately, Mareep is only available in X and Y on Route 12, just after the 3rd gym, meaning you must trade for it to Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire if you want to use it. Ironically, however, Ampharos site is located in New Mawile City in Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. With the introduction of the Steel-type Pokemon in the 2nd generation, Steelix was one of the most terrifying Pokemon of the time. Its extremely high physical defense made it a nightmare for contact hitters and was able to dish out some equally impressive damage. Fast forward to Generation 6, Steelix is unfortunately overshadowed by better Steel Pokemon like Bronzong or Probopass, but it still can be very useful in its Mega form. Steelix's spikes are transformed into crystals that protrude from its body and is surrounded by circling metal fragments, really embodying its Steel typing. While it's still as slow as ever, its attack and defense are increased even further, making it a true monster to battle against. That is, unless you're a water type. Its ability Sand Force further increases the attack power of ground, rock, and steel types, which is all the move types that Steelix will be utilizing in its move pool. In both X and Y and Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, Steelix can only be obtained by evolving Onix with a Steel Coat, and Onix can be found in the Glittering Cave and Granite Cave respectively. Steelixite can also be found in Granite Cave and Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. Mawile is a pretty humanoid Pokemon. It stands upright, has fingers and feet, and its legs resemble that of a Hakama. Everything is pretty normal except for the giant mouth protruding from the end of its hair. I really enjoyed Mawile's appearance in Generation 3, and I'm glad its Mega was made even weirder. Having been just a Steel type in Generation 3, it had pretty good attack and defense stats. However, its moveset was lackluster and didn't make it very useful in a playthrough, and certainly not in competitive play. In the Generation 3 remake though, it gets the awesome pairing of Fairy typing and a beefed up moveset, being able to use Play Rough, to make it even more viable. In its Mega form, Mawile's attack stat is even higher along with its defensive stats. Combine this with its alright special defense stat and you have somewhat of a decent tank. Although its speed is pretty abysmal, it makes up with its ability Huge Power while Mega evolved. Huge Power doubles the Pokemon's attack stat as long as it has that ability. In Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, you can catch Mawile pretty early in the game after you get the Mach Bite from Mawile City. And then it's Megastone in Verdanturf Town, just west of Mawile. In X and Y, you can catch Mawile in Glittering Cave just before the 2nd gym, but it might take you some grinding because it only has a 2% encounter chance. All the memes aside, Lopunny has never really been a good Pokemon to use. Its speed and attack set it up to be somewhat useful, but its lacking move pool made it pretty unplayable. But like most Pokemon, Lopunny's Mega Evolution is actually pretty good. It trades in its dainty posture for a boxing stance that resembles that of Hitmonchan, ready to beat up anything in front of it. Most notably, Lopunny gains the Fighting type and keeps its normal typing. Its new ability Scrappy allows it to hit Ghost types with normal and Fighting type moves, which makes it useful all around. Its move pool still isn't that great, but if you want something fast that can deal strong damage, Lopunny is a viable option. While I really like Mega Lopunny, getting it is a big enough pain that it would just be easier to use another Fighting type. In X and Y, a transfer is required for both Lopunny and Baniri, and Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire requires the National Dex to catch Baniri in the Safari Zone. Lopunny can be attained post-game in Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire in Mawile City. Sableye was a silly little ghoul that terrorized Generation 3. It had no weaknesses due to its dark ghost typing, and with decent attack stat, it could pack a punch. It's not until Generation 6 when Fairy type is introduced that it finally gets a weakness, which is Dark being weak to Fairy. In Generation 3, Shadow Ball dealt physical damage, which made the perfect stab move for it. I really liked how its design leans more into the Gem's Fries, as it has a giant crystal that it peeks behind. The design isn't a big change, but adds a fun twist to its original form to look at and use. While it's Mega Evolved, Sableye becomes an absolute unit. It has very high physical and special defense to make it a complete tank. Its offensive stats are okay, making it decent at dealing damage too. Its Mega Evolution also comes with the ability Magic Bounce. Magic Bounce reflects any non-attacking move used against it back to the opponent. This means moves like Leech Seed, Yawn, and Sleep Powder are rendered useless against Mega Sableye, and now you get to use that move as if it was your own for the turn. Sableye's speed attack takes a pretty nasty hit when it Mega Evolves, but with its defenses, it doesn't really make that big of a deal. Sableye can only be caught in Omega Ruby as early as Granite Cave, much like Mawile, and in Reflection Cave just before the third gym in X and Y. Unfortunately, the Sable Knight Megastone is relatively late game in Sootopolis City. Medicham was one of the most unique Pokemon from Generation 3. Often being overshadowed by Blaziken or Hariyama for a fighting type pick, the idea of having a fighting psychic type was pretty cool. It had a wide move pool with access to moves like Shadow Ball that give it extra support from psychic and ghost types. Medicham's Mega Evolution grows 4 stream-like arms and sports a headdress that resembles a turban, keeping its iconic puffy pants. While it normally has balanced physical and special attack, its Mega Evolution prioritizes physical attack, gaining the Pure Power ability. Pure Power is similar to Mawile's Huge Power where it doubles the attack stat, the only difference being if another Pokemon gains the Huge Power ability, its attack stat is only multiplied by 1.5 instead of 2 times. That being said, Medicham's move pool heavily favored physical attack moves, like High Jump Kick and Ice Punch. Now in Generation 6 and beyond, you have access to fighting and psychic Pokemon that are better than Medicham, namely Lucario and Hawlucha, but I think its base form and Mega Evolution make it something fun to play, and looks cooler than the aforementioned Pokemon. Medicham's Megastone can be found in Mount Pyre in Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, and Connecting Cave in X and Y. And you're better off just evolving Meditite from Mount Pyre as well, because Medicham is pretty late in the game in Generation 3. In the same realm of cool psychic Pokemon, Alakazam is a classic that got a sick Mega Evolution. Alakazam has been an absolute GOAT since Generation 1, and it gets even better with its Mega. Its design really plays into the whole old wizard aesthetic, with its huge beard and mustache and floating spoons above its head. The icing on the cake for this Mega Evolution is the unsettling sight of its cupping its feet together as it floats around. While potentially being overshadowed by Gardevoir for its fairy typing, or Slowbro for its tankiness, you can always count on Mega Alakazam to be a huge threat by delivering massive damage and speed. Its ability Trace, copying your opponent's ability when it swaps in, doesn't do much to support it, but the good thing about Alakazam is it never really needed any abilities or strategies to make it useful. On top of its access to Stab Psychic, Alakazam can also utilize Shadow Ball and Focus Blast to deal with a variety of enemies. Ever can be caught as early as Granite Cave in Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, and Route 5 in X and Y. Alakazam is located in Slateport City Market, and you can get Alakazam as early as level 16 by trade evolving Kadabra right when it evolves, meaning you can get it pretty early on in the game. As one of the most underrated grass starters, I was really happy when Sceptile got a Mega Evolution. Sceptile has high speed and almost as high special attack. With access to Leaf Blade being a special attack move, it could be a great grass pick in Generation 3. Mega Sceptile gains the Dragon typing, and its big physical transformation is that it just turns around, but I really enjoyed it. It also gets the ability Lightning Rod, which is kind of strange for this Pokemon, but makes it useful when switching into electric type Pokemon. Its even higher speed and special attack make it powerful enough to easily sweep Pokemon, and in combination with its unique typing, makes it have some defensive advantages. However, its lower defense stats can leave it vulnerable to receiving heavy damage. I especially love this Mega because I love seeing underrated Pokemon getting some love, even more so when it's a grass starter. Sceptile is only available via transfer in X and Y, and obviously one of the starters in Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. Sceptile is given to you by Steven in Route 120 if Trico is chosen as your starter, or can be bought from the Stone Shop in Route 114 if it wasn't. Blaziken is one of the most iconic starter Pokemon, and the original Pokemon that started off the classic fire and fighting type combo. With access to moves like Blaze Kick and Sky Uppercut, Blaziken can deal deadly blows to almost any Pokemon. In its Mega Evolution, Blaziken has fiery streamers coming from its arms and stands on one leg ready for battle. In Generation 6, its move pool is widened but still mostly consists of the most powerful fire and fighting type moves, while still using attacks like Stone Edge and Knockoff. has a potential ability of Speed Boost in its base form, which increases speed one stage at the end of each turn. Mega Blaziken has this ability every time. Combine its increasing speed with its overpowering attack stat, and you really have a menacing Pokemon. Much like Sceptile, Blaziken is only available in Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, and its Mega Stone is either given to you by Steven or can be bought from the Stone Shop. Mega Evolutions were the start of the Pokemon gimmicks, and love it or hate it, it was awesome to see Pokemons get new form and increase stats and abilities. I'm really looking forward to seeing what potential new Mega Evolutions are going to be in Pokemon Legends ZA. I want to eventually make a video on what new additions I'd like to see, so stay tuned for that. Let me know which Mega Evolutions are your favorite, and thanks for watching. Peace.